So just to drill into a little bit about the impacted solutions, I mentioned only part of the BEx portfolio is going to be affected by this Excel change in the Office lifecycle that's upcoming. BEx Analyzer, BEx Workbooks, and BEx Broadcaster, the Excel portion of those things are not directly impacted, but still are under consideration for revamping before they also become in similar situation and encounter their own end of maintenance cycles. Would be the BEx Query Designer, just to repeat here, BEx Queries themselves, BEx Web Analyzer, which can be extended into BW4 HANA, as we'll take a look at here in the next couple slides, and the BEx Web Application Designer. If you're not familiar with these tools, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but just to remind everybody that what each component is that's mentioned here. The BEx Query Designer, of course, as the name implies, is where we build content in a traditional BW system. There are new methods, as is mentioned here. The BW modeling tools, which is an Eclipse-based solution, is the newer solution, but it only supports specific platforms, mainly BW for HANA, but also some limited support of BW 7.5. Those systems that are on HANA are fully supported by the BWMT, and these corresponding notes give you some indication of that level of coverage depending on the platform you're at. But the BW Query Designer, of course, will remain technically available, even though it's part of the BEx suite of tools as we've been talking about. BEx Queries, this is the output of the BEx Query Designer. These are foundational for BEx Workbooks and BEx Analyzer, but also, of course, they can be used in BEx Web and BEx Web Application Designer. So while these BEx queries will continue to be used as data sources for analysis for Office, we're definitely suggesting that you look at the BW modeling tools where these BEx queries become BW queries. And that's how you can tell, if you can't tell based on the exact design tool you're in, what the name of the output is, it's going to be a key indicator of which tool set you're using. And of course, best practice here is to make sure your BEx queries, as you move towards analysis for Office, are compatible, to make sure you have a smooth transition. We'll talk about some tools later in the session here that will help you automate some of that if you have a large number of BEx workbooks to convert it to analysis for Office in particular. BEx Analyzer, of course, is the centerpiece of the discussion today in terms of needing to take some action and think through what next steps are here. It is Excel-based, as been mentioned. We have analysis for Office, which is the solution that is not a direct upgrade successor. It is a logical successor, and therefore there is a licensing aspect to getting to analysis for Office. Thankfully, one of the better options available to you today is the SAC option, which includes and bundles the analysis for Office, the same analysis for Office from a code perspective that's offered through Business Objects. And that's an area where our colleagues from APOS have provided a robust offering to help with some of the offloading of capabilities that are supported by BEx and BEx Analyzer and BEx Broadcasting. We'll talk about those later in the session as well. BEx Workbooks, these are reports built using BEx Analyzer. A lot of people use these for off-sheet calculations and build a whole infrastructure around their BEx Analyzer input that's been placed into a worksheet or workbook, and allows interaction with BEx queries, as is mentioned here. And so the whole group of components, the BEx workbooks and BEx Analyzer that's placed within a workbook, and the BEx queries that are feeding the BEx analysis, those first two need to be analyzed closely for next steps. We mentioned BEx workbooks, nothing much to say here, except that we do have a mass conversion tool. If you've got a lot of these in place where you've saved your BEx Analyzer content into a workbook and like I said, you've taken that and worked it into a business process or some other output, these would need to be analyzed. And we do offer a mass conversion tool to augment this manual migration. Within Analysis for Office itself, you can open a BEx workbook for conversion. It is a one-off process. We developed some automation through our Premium Hub COE team, our Max Attention team, to take and analyze your entire BW environment and give you an estimate of what it would take to convert that series of workbooks. And so there are some other scenarios, BEx broadcasting being one. If you're publishing pre-calculated content in Excel, which is a very popular option in years past, that also would require some adaptation specifically in the area of the Excel output. But of course, with BW4 HANA, if you're moving in that direction, the BI Java scheduling is not directly supported. There is some exceptional report that you can apply for via a note that I will link here in the next slide. But in general, we would suggest that SAC report distribution be analyzed. And of course, we're going to be talking later in the session here about APOS Publisher for Cloud. That is an important thing to consider in terms of BEx broadcasting, especially with a large and complex broadcasting output. Now, our Max Attention team, our premium engagement folks, have done a survey of customers who've opted in to share that level of detail and are reaching out and trying to contact customers. If you're not sure that you have this in your environment, the best way to be notified by SAP and get it flagged is to turn on your early watch reports and make sure those are current and up to date and running on a scheduled basis. And you'll see you should be contacted by SAP just to make sure that you've got a plan in place. And if you need any guidance and help in terms of next steps and how to get to some of these solutions like APOS Publisher for Cloud, those would be some of the discussions that would happen there. Final point here, BEx Web Analyzer and BEx Web Application Designer, I mentioned they're not directly impacted by this Excel situation, but they are supported until 2030 on the NetWeaver BW stack directly. And again, by exception on BW4 HANA, our intention was to move customers towards SAC directly. When they move to BW4 HANA, we realize it's a big step for customers. And so there is an exception process that can be sought after for BEx Web Analyzer, BEx Web Application Designer. BEx Analyzer, the Excel tool, is not subject to this exception because, again, Microsoft is introducing these changes, not SAP, towards Excel, and we just don't have an environment that's comparable to continue that development, and we already have another tool in place via Analysis for Office. So this re-summarizes what we already said before, just in terms of adding, BW and HANA support, BW4 HANA support, when the current end of support is and what the possible replacement path is for each one of these. We've already touched on this verbally throughout the presentation. And one more reminder about the licensing aspect of this, BEx Analyzer and BEx Workbooks, the BEx pre-calculations in Excel. The on-premise solution for that is Analysis for Office. And of course, SAP Analytics Cloud is an area of focus for customers who are ready to move to cloud and take a look at that. It does include Analysis for Office as part of the license you would buy per user for SAC. This is how you turn on that early watch alert reporting. If you're not sure that you have this BEx Analyzer challenge or the workbook challenge, just how large or what's the scope and scale, that's where you'll see these measures in current early watch reports. So have your administrator turn those on and maybe share them with SAP. If you want to get an automated response, if you want to take a look at your own, of course, you have to share those with SAP per privacy guidelines, but that's up to you as to how you want to get engaged. Speaking of engagement, we do have service plans at SAP to assist with this. As I mentioned, there are some automation and tools to help with this. There's a pre-assessment to help you with a landscape analysis. If you do get flagged in your early watch report, you've got a lot of BEx content that's going to be relevant to this end of life with Excel. We can give you an estimate, a tailored migration roadmap, including something like this. This is just a sample of what you might encounter based on the analysis that is undertaken in your specific system. So this is custom to each customer, depending on what you've done in your environment, with the overall idea of moving BEx workbooks, BEx Analyzer content embedded in those workbooks to analysis for Office, and avoiding the manual click through step by step, one by one, detailed analysis of that. The tool does provide some additional capability beyond just the conversion. First off, this analysis will help take a look at what conversion settings are supported and which aren't, just the standard out of the box stuff that's already there in the manual conversion tool. And that's sort of a binary condition. Either the workbook will convert or won't convert. And when it does convert, it will tell you which elements of BEx are or are not supported in that conversion. And then, of course, the additional details in the mass conversion tool, it adds some capability to selectively migrate these things. So you could pick functional areas or user communities within your larger user community, so that you're not slamming everybody at once with changes, but you can march through your environment and then finally giving you output and feedback on what the conversion status is per workbook. There are also, this is the mass conversion tool. There are additional things that it will allow you to pick up from the conversion. Now, some of this is done in an automated way. With the manual conversion, you just don't have a choice to say yes or no, I do or don't want to take this. This is part of the mass conversion tool that's offered as a service by SAP, as well as some of the specifics of the metadata around and some of the variables that are associated with a particular workbook. There are some prerequisites. Again, this is more of a reading slide for your benefit later. I'm not going to go into all these details. The nice thing is that, of course, you'll be assisted if you do engage the service, and that there'll be an installation that's you're given that includes the mass migration tool, and that appears right in Excel alongside of Analysis for Office, and then you can do the mass conversion assisted by SAP. There are some things that are not directly supported. Of course, VBA, application development, offsheet calculations, and certain things that could be done in BEx don't have a corresponding capability. That list of limitations will be part of the analysis that our services team would help you with to make sure that none of those are showstoppers. Some frequently asked questions about where it saves. We currently do not. Just be aware of this. It is available potentially on a project basis based on analysis by our consulting team. It is not saved to the SAC platform directly as part of the mass migration option. And so just be aware of that. It's something that we're working on and can work on with you on a project basis. The main target, of course, is the BI platform itself, which has been the traditional landing place for these Analysis for Office workbooks when you convert them from BEx Analyzer. Some other details here about, and then specifically this broadcasting feature in BW, we use them in Analysis for Office. It's only supported if you save the workbook to BI platform. We are looking again, this links back to the SAC discussion, and maybe this is a key scenario once we get to SAC, where APOS could assist with some of the tooling they've got specific to this broadcasting scenario. We know that many of these scenarios are highly visible to your end user community. They're complex. They have a wide distribution. And again, high visibility to people that maybe even sponsor the movement to a newer platform, and you don't want to disrupt that.